Hello, I'm getting more comfortable with this Arduplane system now, so I set up a fairly long mission, about 44 waypoints in total, and I also let it get further away from me than I have until now. So this point here is roughly 1 kilometer away from the launch point, and I was curious to see how the telemetry link would hold up at that point. Turns out I was getting over 90% signal the whole way through, so at an altitude of 80 meters it's getting a lot more signal than I was when I did my ground test, because this is the exact same location that I was on the ground getting nothing. And the other thing that I was curious to see was how much the plane is wobbling around while it's flying. So I put an HD camera on, and that's really the only way you can tell how much it's wobbling, because when you're looking at it from the ground from 80 meters below, it looks nice and solid, but if you were to do aerial mapping and you had a camera on there, you don't want it to be wobbling. So I was just sort of curious to see how this wing would do. It weighs about 800 grams all up, and it's a 1.2 meter wing. So not really the biggest of planes, but the weather was quite nice and calm, so it did pretty well as far as I can tell. So this is the first part of the mission here, which I just set up by putting in some points manually. And then the last part of the mission is a grid doing a survey of this rectangle here. And I found a few more settings that you could play around with to make a nicer pattern for the mapping of that, so I'll show you that in a minute. But the plane will start off from here, and I throw it southish, and it climbs up to 50 meters I think here, and then it starts at this point here. This is 3, waypoint 3 is actually the first actual waypoint that it's going to go to. Then it's going to come down here. There's a tree here, so if you're looking at the video later on you might be able to get a rough idea of where it's supposed to be going. There's a tree there, another bunch of trees here, and then it comes across here. There's 2 trees in the field, and it's supposed to be going right between them, which it kind of does. This is only about 100 meters here, so it doesn't have a whole lot of time to turn, but still manages to do quite well. Then this stretch and the whole way back here are going above the roads, the farm roads, so you should be able to see just by looking at the HD camera video how well it's keeping track. And then after that it does this grid, which I didn't show you right now because it sort of clutters everything up as soon as it appears, but if I do survey grid here, so I discovered that if you put the checkbox in advanced options, you get this other 2 tabs here, and that lets you set a manual distance between the lines, although this keeps getting overridden every time you change something else, which is extremely annoying. But you can see, there we go, 60 meters between lines will give me 6 passes. And then if you look at the there we go. If you look at the ends of these lines, you can see, let me just turn that off. See what I mean? And it also resets the zoom. It's bloody annoying. Just leave it where I put it, please. Alright, so normally the path would just go from here to here and then down again, but the plane can't turn around that quickly, at least my plane can't, in the 60 meter distance. So you can have a lead-in, which I have set to 70 meters here, which is actually too short still. Probably 100 meters or more would have been a bit better. But that's this section here between waypoints 5 and 6. You can see there's a bit sort of poking out of the polygon, and that's quite helpful to let the plane turn around, and it enters the polygon at a little bit more of a straighter on-track direction than it would have normally. And another thing you can do, which I tried, is you can say that instead of just coming from this row or this lane of shooting and then going down here, you can actually skip some lanes, and if you have an even number of rows it works out quite nicely if you skip one lane. And of course I have to do this again. Now I have to move my map back to where it was. So then we come down here, this is the first lane. Instead of doing the next lane across, it's going to skip a lane, and then it's going to go down here. And then at the top of this lane it's going to skip one and come down this one. Then it's going to come back and do rows 2, 4 and 6. Anyway, so these settings are really cool, and I'm glad I discovered them. So if I was to accept, we'd see there basically that is the mission that we're about to see. And the only other thing I added after that is a manually placed waypoint, which is an unlimited loiter. So when it finishes this, at the moment this is the last point of the mission, and I put another point here somewhere, and then it's just going to go here and loiter forever.
On auto, that's equals 16.6 meters /s/s, weighting 0.5. seconds. Holding course 16,599 at 14.1 meters /s negative 10.6. Takeoff level off starting at 7 meters. Executing navigation command ID number 16. Reach waypoint number 3, distance 21 meters. Passed waypoint number 4, distance 26 meters. Reach waypoint number 5, distance 12 meters. Reach waypoint number 6, distance 12 meters. Reach waypoint number 7, distance 19 meters. Reach waypoint number 8, distance 21 meters. Reach waypoint number 9, distance 4 meters. Reach waypoint number 9, distance 4 meters. Executing navigation command ID number 16. Executing navigation command ID number 16. Reach waypoint number 11, distance 1 meters. Passed waypoint number 12, distance 3 meters. Reach waypoint number 13, distance 1 meters. Reach waypoint number 14, distance 20 meters. Passed waypoint number 15, distance 45 meters. Reach waypoint number 42, distance 20 meters. Executing command ID number 206.